Hello YouTube, this is Shirley426 and today we have something different to review. Today we have the SIC line, the SIC Kamen Rider Drive. Now I have reviewed a SIC figure before, and that is the SIC Kamen Rider the B, which at least among the SIC designs that I've seen so far, the B was at least the one that looked very similar to its original, TV series design. Now, SIC figures I have mentioned before, basically in the best way I can explain or describe the SIC line in one way is that it's a super exaggerated design version of the TV series design. That's the best way I can explain. But once again, they do, well, while they are exaggerated design, they actually do have their own storyline. Some will have their original storyline. Some will also have storylines after what the main TV series has shown. So it has a lot of interesting aspects. I'm not sure if it's still going on, but once again, I do see announcements or release of SIC figures every 1 or 2 years. So maybe they're still going on, but not as much as they used to be as well. Alright, so let's see what we got. So once again, this figure, I got this as a second hand, so there's a few things I would like to mention right away. So number one, there is a missing piece. That is one of the shift cars. Shift cars are basically the gimmick of this rider. They have these small cars that he would use as that would use it on his wrist here, and then depending on which car he uses, he can change his form, or he can have new various types of equipment depending on the situation. So among that, so we get a few parts right over here, and because I got this as a second hand, it was missing a piece. Number two, I didn't get the box because obviously the previous owner got rid of the box. So that's pretty much it. But other than the missing shift car, everything is here. Alright, so let me get this off the stand and let's start with the review. Now I'm going to mention right away, so apparently, I'm not sure if I mentioned this on my last SIC review, but SIC figures are actually notorious for their joints becoming loose or parts just falling off easily, and apparently I think this is one of those prime examples as well, because Kamen Rider the B, it's an old figure, but once again it was stable all in general because there weren't no interchanging parts as well. But this one actually has a lot of interchanging parts, which I think causes a lot of parts falling off as well. And once again, some joints actually rely on these parts. So yeah. Alright, so let's see what we got in terms of components. So first of all, let's talk about components. So first of all, of course, obviously the rider himself. Once again, for hand-wise, I did attach the basic fist hands as well, and you can see the overall exaggerated design here. Let's just take a closer look here. Even the head. Once again, you can see there is a ton of much more detail going on. Even inside the eye or head, you can see that inside you can see all the actual car headlight detail going on here. Even on the side, you have all these details going on. So you can definitely, I hope you understand why I would call these super exaggerated designs going on here. But yeah, we'll get into that later as well. At least Kamen Rider Drive in this case is much more of mechanical designs, but there are SIC figures where they look more biological rather than being humans with mech suits or suits in general. Some of them just look like they turn into a monster. So yeah, but I think those mostly apply to the old versions as well. And let's see what we got here. So here are the basic equipment. So here are the shift cars I was mentioning about. So we'll go one by one. So the one that is missing is type wild in its shift car form. So there's going to be two versions of the ones, not everything, but some of them. So there is the regular car form, and then there's the one that is used in the bracelet. So in order to use it on the bracelet, they actually need to flip up the back side. So these are the flipped up versions. So here is type speed in his regular shift car, and here is the one that is meant for the bracelet. So you can see there's two forms. Type wild is missing its shift car form, and here we have funky spike. Here we have midnight shadow, max flare in its shift car bracelet form, and I think this is type technic, and then in its for the bracelet form as well. So you may have noticed, so we do get this. Max Flare is going to be kind of an important role for this figure as well, and then we get actually the Max Flare logo for the belt when it uses this. So yeah, just for the sake of reference, I am going to bring out Type Speed here in its bracelet form, and maybe something that I wouldn't mind losing would be, I guess, Type Technic. I'm gonna bring out this Type Technic in the shift car form just for a few reference as well, but that will come in later. Alright, so other than the equipment, other than those small parts, let's look at the hand. So hand-wise, we get a set of trigger fingers. So this is going to be for the weapon. You actually do get a gun type weapon here. And then we have the multi-purpose hands, which is for the sword type weapon, which I'll explain later. And then we get the semi-open hands for posing purposes. So we get 3 sets of hands plus 1, which is the fist hands that I am currently using. Alright, let's talk about the weapons here. Okay, give me a moment. There we go. All right, so we get two weapons. These are like the basic weapons that Kamen Rider Drive does use. So we have the handle cane, or the handle sword, because I believe they used the Japanese term in the series. Now, yeah, the weapons will look goofy. I'm not gonna lie, which is one of the aspects I did not like about the series. But once again, here we have the handle sword. Once again, the blade has been also exaggerated. In the series, it was like a straight blue blade, but you can see we have now clear blue and a few extra design details going on here as well. And the handle can turn like in the series, but once again, it is on a peg, so it can fall off pretty easily. And behind there is a very, how should I say, a very similar looking handle from a different rider from the series. But once again, I did see the design for S.I.C. Kamen Rider, not Kamen Rider, S.I.C. Machine Chaser. Looks very badass. I might try to get that as well. Hopefully it doesn't have the same issues as this one. But once again, there, and then here we have a slot for the shift car. So in the series, you can actually slot these in. So each shift car should have actually a small square hole there, and then you can plug in the shift cars into the peg there. So even so you can use it as well if you want to do so. So just to give you an example, here is the door gun. I think they used a Japanese term, which may sound different. So it's actually a gun. I believe they actually have the mirror here, and then you can open up to reveal a spot that you can plug in a shift car. So once again, you can actually, there is the square peg. You have a square hole, and then you can plug it in. Now, some shift cars will go in pretty easily, some won't. So it really depends on like the molding and situation or condition of the figure. So yeah, and right now I can yeah, there we go, we plug them out. So obviously you're going to be using the trigger finger hand for the door gun, and the multi-purpose hand for the handle sword. All right, and before we get on to the articulation part, let's look at the effect parts. Now this figure takes the whole flaming effect part to a whole new level. So basically, Kamen Rider Drive, this is not a form change. This would be more of a alternative equipment type. So basically, he can use in the max flare shift car, and would now grant him the power of the element of fire to him. And obviously, one of the few things that would actually change would be the tire. So he's in type speed, his basic form. If he uses the max flare, the tire changes into an orange, halo kind of thing with flames on it, and then would grant him the power of fire. So to give that effect, they added a bunch, I mean a bunch of flame effect parts. So let's go with the obvious, largest part. Here we have the flame wheel. Once again, you have to, it's a very tight connections here, so do be aware. So yeah, you have these two parts, very gigantic flame effect part as well. I'm not going to show you the process of applying them, but I am going to show you guys the final version once everything is applied. So right, that's that. And then here we have some flame effect parts that goes onto the arm. In order to attach this, you do need to take off a small silver piece, which is never a fun thing to do. And then here we have the pieces that goes onto the sides. These are, you can see these pipes here. There's also some pipes on the sides there. You have to just take one out as well, and which is also one of the easiest parts that actually pops out. And once it pops out, it actually affects the balance and stability of the figure as well. So yeah, we get these parts. And then, okay, so the interesting part is that you actually need to take off the wrist rings and then replace it here. So on the right hand, no problem. The left one, you can see it has that bracelet where you put on your shift card. Once you have, if you use it, yeah, you won't be needing that shift card anymore. But yeah, kind of interesting. And keep in mind, anything that has a left and right, they will actually have like small signs of L and R. So there is a difference between left and right. So do be aware. And then here, once again, we have these parts that goes on the side of the legs as well, which means you have to take off certain parts from the legs as well, and also for the front legs. And then finally, now these you don't need to detach anything for this part, so these go onto the shoulder. So this one actually doesn't have any pegs to go on. I mean, there is like a semi peg here, but it basically relies on the molding of the shoulder. So it actually comes in two pieces, but once you slap them together, it should be like this and goes onto the shoulder. So you should get a general idea how these work. Alright, so now we have seen the basic components and explained some details on the SIC line. Let's see what we got. And just to give you guys an idea, the size difference between an SHF and SIC, yeah, definitely there is a huge size difference. Which is why I am trying to like SIC, but once again, with all this instability issues, it's very hard. I might need to try a few more. Hopefully I'll find the perfect one that's for me. Alright, let's start. Now, the SIC line, I'm not sure if this is a bad example, but articulation is definitely not their strong traits. Because of all these parts, all these exaggerated designs, everything pretty much limits the articulation here, as far as I can tell. Alright, so, let's see what we got. So for the head, once again, as I mentioned before, very exaggerated, highly detailed head going on. Even the visor is clear piece, and behind the clear piece we have some details. Going to the side, 90 degrees is possible, but 360 not possible, obviously. Well, not exactly 90 degrees, but it can go to the side as well. Once again, human inside, no, there's no way it can go 360. And looking at the back here, you have all this nice detail going on here, even like the spine effect, spine detail, like on the back of the neck here. And then although the neck kind of looks a little bit long for a human, but that could be just me. I have seen long necks before, all right? And then going down is possible. Upward is also possible as well. Alright, now looking at the main body here, nothing too special going on here. Just the type speed tire going all the way through. Now, one of the first like interesting parts of Kamen Rider Drive is that it is asymmetrical because of this tire. This is one of the few cases, rare cases, that they did this to a Kamen Rider design. Granted, there was Kamen Rider W, but it's just only the color when you think about it. Well, technically, but to a certain point. But you get my point. So the tire here, you can detach this, which I will show after showing the arm articulation. So with the tire arm, the arm articulation, well, not the great. And because once again, in general, the shoulder is now attached to the main body. So this is what I've explained before in other SHF figure arts review, is that once the shoulder is attached to the main body, it affects the arm articulation. You can't really go 360 because you have no control on the shoulder armor. You can kind of go like this, but that's not an ideal 360. So that's that. So yeah, the shoulder is attached to the main body, not ideal, and which it was also one of the few things that affected the Kamen Rider Z-B SIC figure as well. But once again, you do have a little bit of twist on the arm itself. You can kind of, it doesn't go 360 on its own. If I try to, you're actually moving the entire joint here. So that's that. Bend wise, you only get roughly about a 90-degree bend. I think that was similar to the my previous figure as well. And then here we have the shift bracelet here. You can attach the a shift car if you want to do so, because there is a peg. You can either use the shift car form or the bracelet form, whatever you want to do so. And here is one of those things that you have to pull detach in order to attach the flame effect part. So you have this silver piece here, you do need to detach it. Alright, and then hand wise, they are actually on ball joints, but there also is a wrist joint as well. So you do have a little bit of freedom of movement there. And once again, these bracelets are a separate piece. So if once you pull out the hand, you can also detach this part if you want to do so. But once again, you're going to do that for the flame effect parts. Alright, and then going to the side, roughly 90 degrees is almost possible, but once again, just design colliding here and there, so that's that. No, these pipes do not pop out, so no need to worry. And finally, you can detach the tire here as well and reveal the inside detail. So yeah, there is you can also do this with the SHF version, and they will show some sort of detail if I remember correctly. So yeah, nice little detail on the inside as well, even going for the back, so you can see the more details on the back as well. Alright, now let's look at the belt. Now the belt looks pretty similar or pretty much identical from the series, from the TV show as well, so I'm not going to say I have not much to say, but you are able to take this part off and replace another part here. Oops, sorry about that. I dropped the belt. So you can take off the type speed symbol and then replace this with the max flare symbol as well. So that is pretty much the main reason why you need that. And you might have heard a small clunk noise, is that it's this pipe that fall off. So these are one of the few parts that is constantly falling off time to time. Despite being a double peg system, what I mean by double peg, there are two places that's holding in place, and yet it's still falling off pretty easily. But once again, you need that piece to be there, because once it's out, the joints just pretty much go off. So once again, you can see it's standing on its own, but once I take these parts off from the side, it becomes a little bit unstable. So it has like, it's because those parts are actually holding this on. So it's you have to be, without those parts, you have to be in a very specific angle on the leg. So it could be just mine that's the issue, but once again, I do need to try out more SIC figures for a more accurate, explanations, because so far I've only heard like SICs are notorious for their joints going loose, but yeah, in this case it's a very interesting situation here. Looking at the side, we also have the shift card holders. You can put 3 here, as well anything that's in the shift card form or the bracelet form, you can still slap them on. But once again, in the series, these would have the shift card forms as well. And this thing seems to be on a ball joint because I cannot pull this out. Alright, now looking at the legs, despite the belt being on the belly, doesn't really matter in terms of articulation. So going to the front is pretty much possible as well, just for the reference. Even with the belt on, it doesn't really affect the legs, the articulation. So going for the front more than 90 degrees is possible, kind of rare to see that. And then going to the back is also possible. Side, not so much because of these pipes. And you can see there is a pulley system going on here, so you can reposition this, but you do not want to pull the way down, because not the best, joints ever, at least on mine. And then bend wise, you do get a double bend, so more than 90 degrees is possible. And then feet wise, you do have a little bit side to side movement and this kind of a pivot joint, but once again, not exactly a pivot, but not exactly a pivot joint, but you can kind of work your way through by moving in a certain angle to get that pivot joint. And then once again, forward and back, forward is possible, going down is possible, and then toe bend exists, but not by a lot, or unless this is a little bit stiff. But once again, this is as far as I can go. And finally, well, not finally, and then there are these parts that can pop out as well on the legs, but those are for, at least these are more stable, and for the part changes as well. Now, before we go to max flare, let's look. I'll be right back with a demonstration of the weapons. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So here we have the weapons demonstration here. So I was able to attach them onto the hand, but once again, I'm not sure if the hands has been stretched by the previous owner, or it's just a matter of fact where the handles are a bit thinner compared to the hand size. So once again, here we have the what was called, the handle sword or handle ken. So it goes into the hand pretty well, but you can see there is a little bit of wobble going on here. You can see the grip is not actually, the handle size doesn't really match the grip here, so it's a little bit shame that is the case. But once again, I need to see if other SICs have a similar situation, because the previous one did not have any handhold weapons that I reviewed. So holding it, no problem as well. But once again, because of the limited shoulder articulation, and then the spread of the leg is limited, so getting certain poses might be a little bit tricky unless you take these parts out. But then again, once I take them out, the stability issue does appear. And then the same goes for the door gun as well. The trigger finger holds it pretty well with the trigger, but once again, it's still on a little bit of the wobbly side. So yeah, a little bit odd there, but once again, they do attach to the hand pretty well as well. And then you do get the gimmicks where you can open the door to do a power shot, or you can also turn the handle if you want to do so, and then also attach the shift cards onto the weapon. But once again, in the series, he definitely does use the sword a little bit more often compared to the gun and later. But once again, I'm glad they did add these in, because the original, I believe I forgot which one it was, but I think Drive itself didn't come with one of these weapons as well. Alright, since we're done with the equipment, I'll be right back with the max flare effect part, since that is the main finale of the of this figure. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So here we have the max flare effect parts attached, and they look amazing. So this takes the whole flaming effect parts to a whole new level. Now, keep in mind, I do not collect one of those Bon Presto figures, like especially the ones that make for One Piece, because I know they use a lot of flame effect parts for those. But once again, this is my first case seeing this many flaming effect parts on a single figure. So yeah, let's see what we got. Now, I would like to mention here right away, while some articulation is still there, I don't really recommend you try to like pose or move around with all this many stuff on, because you're pretty much gonna knock something out, or some parts are going to even collide. Heck, even just to attach this part, I had to like basically move the whole shift car brake holsters upwards 90 degrees like this, just to make this work as well. So yeah. Now let's start with the top and bottom as well. So on the top, the head does not get any effect parts, obviously. But once again, the wheel that goes onto the chest, you use an entire wheel, and these flame effect parts are already attached to the wheel, so there's no way to detach them as well, as far as I know. But once again, they go from the front to back. They all connect in a circle. This looks amazing. Now technically, just I would like to mention, if they didn't have the flame effect parts here in the main series, they would have like these other how should I say it, these other flaps on the wheel, maybe 5 or 6 of them on the wheel. Once again, I think they made the right choice to use max flare and to cover up everything with flame effect parts. Now the shoulder, as I mentioned, they don't really go on a peg. They kind of rely on the mold of the shoulder itself, so you have to attach them to a specific point on the shoulder, and then maybe let them rest and connect the front and back part in a single peg that is at the end tip as well. Now the arms, once again, you do have a little bit of movement left going on here, but once again, you have to detach the hand, replace the bracelet with the flaming version as well, and then attach another flaming effect part onto the arm itself. And once again, once you have lined them up okay, properly, it looks like a single piece. But once again, it's actually 2 pieces as well. Same goes for the other arm as well. You do need to replace the bracelet with the flaming effect parts. Now the belt, I'm not sure if you can see, but I did put in the max flare symbol inside the belt as well. And then finally, for the side parts, once again, these parts that keeps popping out. Now these ones actually stay in a little bit more better compared to the regular version. So in general, this works much better. This form feels much more stable compared to its regular basic form. So I might actually leave it like in this form as well. And then for the legs here, you have how should I say? You have 2 pieces. So the one that goes onto the side, this gigantic one, and the front part one as well. So yeah, I believe you have to attach the front part first and then the side, because the side one actually covers up the front part to a certain degree with its flame effect parts. And that is pretty much it. So once again, I think they really aced this as well. I think using max flare with the flame effect parts was the great idea on this figure, because like Midnight Shadow, it obviously gives him like ninja power, so there's not much effect parts that you can show. And then Funky Spike, it's just spikes on the tire, so not much you can do. But Flame, they aced this one as well. I would actually like to see a Dead Heat version, maybe, or maybe in the future Kamen Rider Maha from the line. That would be kind of interesting to see in this lineup as well. Anyway, that is pretty much it for the review. So once again, this being my second SIC figure, I am still not too sure whether like these basic like joints getting loose, parts falling off is a regular thing for the SIC line, because the first one didn't have any of that because it didn't really need that. This one has interchanging parts, hence like some parts falling off, and then maybe because of that the joints are being effective. So I might need to try like a third or fourth one with different aspects here and there, and then I can make the final judgment as well. Anyway, thank you for watching the review. This was the review of the SIC Kamen Rider Drive. If you guys got any questions or requests, in the comment below. I still have more stuff to buy and build and make reviews out, so please stay tuned. Until then, see you guys next time.